A man with a secret desire. The city of Valencia buzzed with life as tourists and locals alike enjoyed the golden hues of the Mediterranean sunset. Yet within the top floor of a towering skyscraper, the glow of a desk lamp competed with the dimming light outside. Adam Rivera, a 35-year-old millionaire, stared at the meticulously organized spreadsheets on his screen. They outlined profits, projections, and operational efficiencies for Rivera Hotels International, the empire he had inherited at an age when most were still discovering their paths. The opulence of his life often felt like a gilded cage. Every decision, no matter how trivial, was scrutinized under the weight of expectations from shareholders, board members, and the ghost of his late father, Lionel Rivera, a man revered as a visionary in the world of luxury hospitality. Adam admired his father's accomplishments, but resented the path that had been laid out for him. The Rivera name was synonymous with perfection and service, but Adam often wondered if he truly understood the meaning of service himself. The Rivera flagship property, the Valencia Pearl, was lauded as one of the most luxurious hotels in Europe. It stood as a testament to his family's legacy. A sprawling 5-star retreat where the city's elite gathered, and where even the staff spoke of Lionel Rivera's hands-on approach with reverence. But for Adam, the hotel represented something else entirely, a symbol of the life he had been thrust into. Deep down, he longed to experience the world not as Adam Rivera, the heir to a hospitality empire, but as a regular man. He yearned for anonymity, to walk through the halls of the Pearl without the filter of privilege. It was during one of these moments of introspection that a daring idea formed in his mind, a thought so audacious it made him laugh aloud. What if I stayed at the Pearl as a guest? The concept seemed absurd, yet the more he thought about it, the more it called to him. What better way to understand the world he had inherited than to see it through the eyes of an ordinary guest? Not as Adam Rivera, but as someone unknown, unburdened by the weight of his name. By the end of that evening, Adam's plan had crystallized. He would take a 2-week leave from the public eye, crafting a story about a private retreat to focus on future expansion plans. In truth, he would assume a new identity, Daniel Cortez, a fictional business consultant visiting Valencia for leisure. He instructed his assistant to block off his calendar and packed a modest suitcase, deliberately choosing plain clothes over the tailored luxury he usually wore. For once, he wanted to blend in, not stand out. The Valencia Pearl gleamed like a jewel under the setting sun as Adam arrived, disguised as Daniel. The taxi dropped him at the grand entrance, where doormen clad in perfectly tailored uniforms opened the glass doors with practiced smiles. Adam felt an unfamiliar mix of nerves and excitement as he stepped inside, clutching the single suitcase. He had walked through this very lobby countless times, but always as its owner. Tonight, for the first time, he was just another guest. The reception area was alive with quiet elegance, polished marble floors, golden accents that caught the light, and the soft hum of a string quartet playing in the background. He approached the front desk, where a young woman greeted him with a warm smile. "Welcome to the Valencia Pearl. How may I assist you today?" she asked, her voice professional yet genuinely kind. Adam handed over his ID, an expertly forged document bearing his alias, Daniel Cortez. "I have a reservation." The receptionist typed quickly, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "Yes, Mr. Cortez. I see you're booked for a standard king room. May I offer an upgrade to one of our premium suites? The view is quite spectacular." Adam hesitated. The allure of the premium suite was tempting, but he had promised himself he would experience the hotel as an average guest. "No, thank you," he replied. "The standard room will do." She nodded, seemingly surprised by his choice, but too professional to comment. "Of course. Your room is on the 6th floor, overlooking the courtyard. Enjoy your stay." As she handed him the key card, Adam noticed something he had never paid attention to before: the soft pink tint of her nails, meticulously maintained. It was a small detail, but it struck him how much effort the staff put into their presentation, details he had always taken for granted. The room was smaller than any Adam had ever stayed in at the Pearl, yet it exuded the same understated luxury. The linen smelled faintly of lavender, and the lighting was perfectly calibrated to create an atmosphere of calm. As he unpacked his modest suitcase, Adam realized he felt something he hadn't in years, a sense of adventure. The next morning, Adam decided to explore the hotel without the constraints of meetings or responsibilities. He wandered through the lush courtyard, where the sound of a bubbling fountain mingled with the laughter of children. He stopped by the concierge desk, where a seasoned employee named Raphael greeted him warmly. "Good morning, sir. How can I assist you?" Adam hesitated. He wasn't used to asking for help. "I was wondering if you could recommend a good cafe nearby." Raphael's eyes lit up. "Ah, you must try Café de la Luna. It's just a short walk from here. Their pastries are the best in Valencia." "Thank you," Adam replied, feeling an unexpected sense of gratitude for the man's enthusiasm. Over the next few days, Adam immersed himself in the life of an ordinary guest. He chatted with the housekeeping staff, complimenting them on the impeccable cleanliness of the rooms. He joined other travelers in the lounge, sipping wine and listening to live jazz performances. One evening, he noticed a young woman orchestrating the flow of a corporate event in one of the Pearl's ballrooms. She moved with a confidence that commanded attention, her clipboard a shield and her smile a weapon. He learned her name was Sophia Morels, the hotel's event coordinator. As he observed her from a distance, Adam was struck by her passion. She reminded him of his father's stories about the early days of the Rivera Empire, days when success was built not on corporate ambition, but on genuine care for guests and staff alike. Watching Sophia, he felt a pang of envy. She seemed to love her work in a way he hadn't loved anything in years. Driven by curiosity, Adam introduced himself to her later that evening. "You're Sophia Morales, right? I saw you managing the event earlier. It was impressive." Sophia looked at him, surprised but not displeased by the compliment. "Thank you. It's what I do." They fell into an easy conversation, and Adam found himself drawn to her unfiltered honesty. Unlike the people he usually encountered, Sophia didn't care about his wealth or status, because she didn't know who he truly was. To her, he was just Daniel Cortez, a guest who seemed oddly interested in the workings of the hotel. By the end of his first week as Daniel, Adam realized he was beginning to see the Valencia Pearl in a new light. It wasn't just a luxury hotel. It was a living, breathing ecosystem powered by people who poured their hearts into their work. The very people he had overlooked as a detached CEO now felt like the true soul of the Rivera legacy. But as he immersed himself deeper into this world, Adam knew he was walking a tightrope. The more he connected with the staff, the more he felt the weight of his deception. His growing rapport with Sophia only heightened the stakes. For the first time in his life, Adam Rivera wasn't the man in control, and he wasn't sure if he wanted to be. Unmasking the truth, the Valencia Pearl shimmered under the glow of the city's lights as Adam Rivera, still cloaked in the anonymity of his alias Daniel Cortez, leaned against the balustrade of the courtyard. The sound of fountains blended with the muffled chatter of guests dining under the stars. Yet his mind was a whirlpool of thoughts, pulled between the richness of his newfound experiences and the growing weight of his deception. Adam's week as Daniel had been transformative. He had walked the halls of the Pearl not as its heir, but as an outsider, an observer. Through his interactions with staff like Raphael and Sophia, he began to understand the true lifeblood of his family's empire. But with this understanding came guilt, a gnawing sense that his secret was not only dishonest, but could unravel everything he was beginning to cherish about this experience. One evening, as he stepped into the hotel lounge for a drink, Sophia Morales spotted him and waved him over. The lounge was alive with a live band playing a sultry jazz melody, and the warm light from the chandeliers cast a soft glow on the patrons. Adam hesitated, then made his way to her. "Daniel," she greeted him with a smile that was both warm and challenging. You're becoming a regular here. Don't tell me you've already explored all of Valencia." He chuckled nervously. "Not quite. But the lounge here has a certain charm." Sophia tilted her head, studying him. "You know, you're an interesting guest. Most people I meet here are either busy showing off or too absorbed in their own world to notice what's happening around them. You pay attention." Her words felt like both a compliment and a veiled question. Was she beginning to suspect there was more to him than met the eye? Adam deflected with a self-deprecating laugh. "I suppose I just like observing people. There's a lot you can learn when you stop and look around." Sophia nodded, her gaze lingering for a moment before she changed the subject. "Speaking of looking around, there's a charity gala being hosted here in a few days. I've been drowning in preparations. It's going to be one of the biggest events we've had this year." Adam raised an eyebrow. "Sounds impressive. What's the cause?" "Local art programs," Sophia said, her passion evident. "We're working with artists from Valencia to showcase their work and raise funds for underprivileged schools. It's not just about the glitz, it's about giving back." Adam felt a pang of admiration mixed with unease. She was pouring her heart into this event, unaware that the man she was speaking to was the owner of the hotel. The thought of revealing his true identity to her had crossed his mind many times, but fear always held him back. How would she react? Would she feel betrayed? The days leading up to the gala were a blur of activity. Adam spent his mornings exploring the city as Daniel Cortez, and his evenings observing the bustling preparations for the event. He often saw Sophia darting between the ballroom and the conference rooms, her clipboard seemingly an extension of her arm. Her dedication inspired him, and he found himself volunteering to help in small ways, moving equipment, assisting with arrangements, anything to be closer to her world. One evening, as they worked late arranging the seating plan for the gala, Sophia paused and looked at him. "You're not like most guests, Daniel." Adam froze. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you're here, in the middle of everything, helping with things most people wouldn't even notice. It's not what I'd expect from someone who's supposedly just visiting." He hesitated, the weight of his lie pressing down on him. "Maybe I just like to stay busy," he said lightly, though the truth of her observation unsettled him. Sophia studied him for a moment longer before shaking her head with a laugh. "Well, whatever your reason, I'm glad you're here. You've been a huge help." The night of the gala arrived, and the Valencia Pearl was transformed into a scene of opulence. The ballroom sparkled with chandeliers, and the air buzzed with anticipation as guests arrived in their finest attire. Adam, dressed in a simple yet elegant suit, blended seamlessly into the crowd. He watched from the periphery as Sophia moved through the room, her presence commanding attention. The event was a resounding success. Guests marveled at the art displays, and the auction raised a significant sum for the local programs. As the night wore on, Adam found himself drawn to Sophia, who was standing by the bar, her face alight with the glow of accomplishment. "You pulled it off," he said as he approached her. "This is incredible." Sophia smiled, though there was a hint of exhaustion in her eyes. "It wasn't just me. It was a team effort, but thank you." They fell into an easy conversation, and for a moment, Adam allowed himself to forget his deception. But the illusion shattered when a guest approached them, a wealthy businessman who clearly recognized Adam. "Mr. Rivera," the man exclaimed, his voice loud enough to turn heads. "I didn't expect to see you here." Adam's stomach dropped as Sophia's eyes widened in shock. He quickly forced a smile, trying to play it off. You must have me confused with someone else. I'm Daniel Cortez." The man looked puzzled but shrugged it off, muttering an apology before wandering away. The damage, however, was done. Sophia's gaze bore into Adam, her expression a mix of confusion and betrayal. "Daniel," she said slowly, "what was that about?" He opened his mouth to respond, but the words caught in his throat. The lie he had been living suddenly felt unbearable, and he realized he couldn't keep it up any longer. "Sophia," He began, his voice low and strained. "There's something I need to tell you." She crossed her arms, her expression hardening. "I'm listening." He took a deep breath, his heart pounding. "I haven't been honest with you. My name isn't Daniel Cortez. It's Adam Rivera. I own the Valencia Pearl." For a moment, silence hung between them, the noise of the gala fading into the background. Sophia's face was unreadable, and Adam braced himself for her reaction. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet but firm. "You've been lying to me this whole time." "I didn't mean to hurt you," Adam said quickly, his words tumbling out in a rush. "I wanted to see the hotel from a different perspective, to understand what it's really like for the people who work here and the guests who stay. I didn't expect to meet someone like you." Sophia's eyes narrowed, her tone sharp. "Someone like me? What does that even mean?" "It means you've shown me what this place is really about," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "Not the luxury or the reputation, but the people. You've made me see things I never saw before." She shook her head, her expression a mixture of anger and disbelief. "You think that excuses your deception. You lied to me, to everyone here." "I know," Adam said, his voice breaking. "And I'm sorry. I didn't plan for this to happen. I wanted to understand." Sophia stared at him, her eyes searching his face for something. An explanation, a justification. Finally, she exhaled, her shoulders slumping. "I need time to think about this." She turned and walked away, leaving Adam standing alone in the middle of the crowded ballroom. For the first time in his life, he felt truly exposed, not as the confident CEO of Rivera Hotels, but as a man who had made a terrible mistake. In the days that followed, Adam threw himself into his work, meeting with staff and addressing issues he had overlooked before. He tried to reconnect with Sophia, but she kept her distance, her demeanor polite but cold. The distance between them felt unbearable, but he knew he couldn't force her to forgive him. As he continued his stay at the Pearl, Adam realized that his time as Daniel Cortez had not been in vain. He had learned more about the heart of the hotel than he ever could have as Adam Rivera. But the price of that knowledge was high, and he wasn't sure if he could repair the damage he had caused. As the final days of his anonymous stay approached, Adam made a decision. He would reveal his true identity to the staff and take responsibility for his actions. It was time to stop hiding and face the consequences of his choices. The reckoning. The sun rose over Valencia, its golden rays casting a serene glow over the city, but within the walls of the Valencia Pearl, tension simmered. Adam Rivera, having shed the alias of Daniel Cortez, stood in his suite, staring out at the Mediterranean horizon. The calm beauty of the morning was a stark contrast to the storm raging within him. Today, he would confront his staff, his deception, and the consequences of the choices he had made. The night before, Adam had composed a heartfelt message to Sophia, hoping to bridge the growing chasm between them. It was a simple note, tucked under her office door, acknowledging his mistakes and expressing his desire to make things right. He didn't expect forgiveness immediately, if at all, but he wanted her to know how deeply he valued her. Now, as the day unfolded, he braced himself for the challenges ahead. The Valencia Pearl's grand ballroom had been transformed into a meeting space, its usual grandeur softened for a gathering of the hotel's staff. Adam had asked Rafael, the concierge, to spread the word of an important meeting, one that would include every department. From housekeepers and chefs to event coordinators and maintenance workers, nearly everyone had been invited. The air was heavy with curiosity and speculation. As the staff filed in, Adam stood at the front of the room, flanked by a podium and a simple microphone. He recognized the faces of people who had greeted him as Daniel Cortez. Rafael, whose attention to detail as a concierge had left a lasting impression. Maria, the housekeeper who always greeted guests with a warm smile despite long hours. And of course, Sophia, standing near the back of the room, her expression unreadable. When the last of the attendees had settled, Adam stepped forward. The hum of quiet conversations died down, and the room fell silent. He adjusted the microphone, his nerves visible in the slight tremor of his hands. "Good morning, everyone," he began, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. "Thank you for being here. I know you're all busy, and I appreciate you taking the time to join me." He paused, scanning the room, his gaze lingering briefly on Sophia before continuing. "I owe all of you an apology and an explanation." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, but Adam pressed on. "When I arrived here 2 weeks ago, I wasn't entirely honest about who I am. I introduced myself as Daniel Cortez, a business consultant, but that wasn't the truth. My real name is Adam Rivera, and I am the owner of the Valencia Pearl." The room erupted into whispers, confusion, and shock etched on the faces of the staff. Sophia's eyes widened momentarily before narrowing in suspicion. Adam took a deep breath, letting the murmurs settle before speaking again. "I came here as Daniel because I wanted to see this hotel, your hotel, not as its owner, but as an ordinary guest. I wanted to understand what makes it work, what makes it special, and what it feels like to experience it as you do. I didn't come to spy or deceive, but to learn." He hesitated, his voice faltering as he admitted, "What I didn't anticipate was how much I would learn, not just about the hotel, but about myself. In these past weeks, I've seen the heart of this place. It's not the marble floors or the chandeliers. It's not the luxury suites or the gourmet dining. It's you. Each and every one of you." His words hung in the air, the sincerity in his tone softening the initial shock of his revelation. He pressed on, his voice growing firmer. "You've shown me what true hospitality means. You've shown me dedication, passion, and resilience in ways I've never fully appreciated. And for that, I am deeply grateful. But I also understand that my deception may feel like a betrayal, and for that, I am truly sorry." Adam looked out at the sea of faces, searching for any signs of understanding or forgiveness. "I don't expect you to trust me right away. I know trust is earned, not demanded. But I want to prove to you that I'm here not just as an owner, but as a partner. Someone who is invested in this hotel and in each of you." When he finished speaking, the silence was palpable. The staff exchanged glances, their expressions a mixture of surprise, skepticism, and cautious curiosity. Finally, Raphael broke the silence. "Mr. Rivera," he said, his voice calm but firm, "what you've done here is unusual, to say the least. But it's clear you've seen a side of us that most executives never bother to notice. My question is, what happens now? How does this change things for us?" Adam nodded, appreciating the honesty of the question. "It changes everything," he said. "For years, I've led this company from a distance, focusing on growth and profit. But I see now that success isn't just about numbers. It's about people. Starting today, I'm committed to ensuring that the Valencia Pearl and every hotel in our chain reflects the values I've learned here. Respect for the staff, a genuine connection with our guests, a commitment to the community." Another voice, this time Maria, the housekeeper, spoke up. "That sounds good, but words are just words. How do we know this isn't just another corporate speech?" Adam met her gaze, the weight of her skepticism pressing down on him. "You're right. Words aren't enough. That's why I'm inviting you all to hold me accountable. If I don't live up to this commitment, I want you to call me out on it. This isn't just my hotel. It's ours." The murmurs began again, but this time, they carried a different tone. A flicker of hope sparked among the staff, though it was tempered by caution. Change, they knew, would not come easily. After the meeting, Adam lingered in the ballroom, speaking individually with staff members who approached him. Many were still wary, but a few expressed gratitude for his willingness to listen and learn. Raphael, ever the consummate professional, gave him a small nod of approval before returning to his duties. Sophia, however, remained elusive. She left the ballroom without a word, and Adam's heart sank as he watched her go. He knew that earning back her trust would be his greatest challenge. That evening, Adam found himself in the hotel's rooftop garden, a quiet space he had discovered during his time as Daniel. The city stretched out before him, its lights shimmering like a sea of stars. He was deep in thought when he heard footsteps behind him. "I read your note," Sophia said, her voice soft but steady. She stepped into view, her arms crossed over her chest. "It doesn't change what happened, but it does show that you're trying." Adam turned to face her, his expression earnest. "Sophia, I meant every word. I know I've hurt you, and I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I want to make this right." She studied him for a long moment, her gaze searching. "You've been honest today, and that's a start. But trust isn't rebuilt overnight, Adam. If you want to prove that you're serious, it's going to take more than just apologies. It's going to take action." Her words were firm, but there was a note of possibility in her tone, an indication that the door wasn't entirely closed. Adam nodded, his resolve strengthening. "I understand, and I'm ready to do the work." Sophia offered him a small, tentative smile. "Then let's see what you're made of." The next few days marked the beginning of a new chapter for Adam. He threw himself into the daily operations of the Valencia Pearl, working alongside the staff to address their concerns and implement meaningful changes. He held open forums where employees could voice their ideas and frustrations, and he made it a point to follow through on their suggestions. Sophia, true to her word, kept her distance, but observed his efforts with cautious optimism. Slowly, Adam began to see glimmers of trust returning, not just from her, but from the entire staff. It was a long road ahead, but for the first time, Adam felt that he was walking it with purpose. Rebuilding bridges. The days following Adam Rivera's confession were anything but ordinary at the Valencia Pearl. The revelation of his true identity had sent ripples through the staff, and though some were cautiously optimistic about his intentions, others remained skeptical. For Adam, this skepticism was both humbling and motivating. He had spent his life surrounded by the luxury his family's empire afforded him, yet it wasn't until now, truly walking among the people who kept that empire alive, that he understood the magnitude of his responsibility. The staff's initial mistrust hung in the air like a weight, but Adam welcomed it. Trust, he knew, would have to be earned through actions, not words. And so, he immersed himself in the day-to-day operations of the hotel, committing himself to proving that his apology wasn't just a fleeting gesture. A new vision takes shape. Adam's first step was to implement tangible changes within the Valencia Pearl. He began by establishing a series of open forums where staff from all levels could voice their concerns and ideas. These meetings were a departure from the corporate hierarchy the Rivera Hotel's chain had always adhered to, and at first, attendance was sparse. But as word spread that Adam wasn't just listening, but acting on the feedback he received, participation grew. One of the first major ideas came from Maria, the housekeeper whose skepticism at the staff meeting had challenged Adam to prove himself. She proposed creating a mentorship program that paired experienced staff with newer hires to foster a sense of community and shared knowledge. Adam not only approved the idea but insisted on funding professional development workshops for all employees. The program's rollout was met with enthusiasm, and Maria, once wary of Adam's intentions, became one of his staunchest supporters. For the first time, she told him during one of their conversations, "It feels like we're not just working for a hotel, we're part of something bigger." But these early victories weren't without challenges. Adam quickly discovered the financial strain of enacting such sweeping changes. As an owner who had temporarily stepped away from the corporate board, his resources were more limited than they had been as CEO. Still, he refused to compromise on his vision, even if it meant leveraging his personal savings to fund the initiatives. Mending ties with Sophia. While progress with the staff was slow but steady, Adam's relationship with Sophia remained fragile. She had resumed her duties as the hotel's event coordinator with her usual precision, but their conversations were strictly professional. The warmth that had once defined their interactions was conspicuously absent. One afternoon, as Adam walked through the hotel's courtyard, he spotted Sophia sitting by the fountain, her clipboard balanced on her lap. She was deep in thought, her brows furrowed as she reviewed her notes. Gathering his courage, Adam approached her. "May I join you?" he asked, his tone hesitant. Sophia glanced up, her expression unreadable. After a moment's pause, she gestured to the empty seat beside her. "Sure." Adam sat down, the sound of the fountain filling the silence between them. He took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "I know I've said this before, but I want to thank you for your patience, even when you didn't have to give it." Sophia set her clipboard aside, crossing her arms. "Patience isn't the same as trust, Adam. And trust doesn't come easy, especially after what you did." "I know," he admitted, "and I don't expect you to trust me overnight. But I want you to know that everything I'm doing here, every change I'm trying to make, it's because of what I've learned from you and the others." Her gaze softened, but her voice remained firm. "Then keep proving it. Show me that you're not just a man with good intentions, but one who follows through." He nodded, grateful for even this small opening. "I will." The turning point. As the weeks passed, the Valencia Pearl began to transform. Under Adam's leadership, new initiatives flourished, each one reinforcing the sense of community within the hotel. Monthly staff appreciation dinners became a staple, giving employees a chance to unwind and celebrate their hard work. Local partnerships were established with artists, musicians, and small businesses, turning the hotel into a vibrant hub of Valencia's culture. One such event, an art exhibition featuring local painters, proved to be a turning point. The ballroom was filled with guests admiring the artwork, and Adam noticed Sophia standing by one of the displays, her expression contemplative. He approached her cautiously. "This event turned out better than I could have hoped," he said. Sophia glanced at him, her lips curving into a small smile. "It's good. The guests love it, and the artists are thrilled with the exposure. I couldn't have done it without you," he said sincerely. "Your attention to detail, your ability to bring people together, it's inspiring." She looked at him, her smile fading into something more serious. "You've changed, Adam. When you first came here, I thought you were just another executive who cared more about appearances than people. But now, I'm starting to see someone different." Her words filled him with a cautious hope. "I've had a lot to learn, Sophia, and you've been one of my greatest teachers." For the first time since his confession, Sophia's gaze held a glimmer of the warmth he had thought lost. "Don't let it go to your head," she teased lightly. But her words carried a hint of forgiveness, and Adam felt the beginnings of a bridge being rebuilt. Facing the board, even as the hotel thrived, Adam knew his work wasn't complete. The Valencia Pearl was only one part of the Rivera Hotel's empire, and his vision for change extended far beyond its walls. To truly transform the company, he would need to confront the board, the very people who had once dismissed his ideas as impractical. The opportunity came in the form of an annual shareholder meeting. Adam prepared meticulously, gathering data on the Valencia Pearl's success and its impact on the community. His argument was simple yet powerful. By prioritizing people over profit, the hotel had achieved both. The meeting was tense. Many board members remained skeptical, their focus fixed on short-term gains. But Adam's passion and the undeniable success of the Valencia Pearl began to sway opinions. By the end of his presentation, even the most resistant members were forced to acknowledge the validity of his approach. As the meeting adjourned, his father, Antonio Rivera, approached him. The elder Rivera had been a towering figure in Adam's life, and their relationship had often been defined by unspoken expectations. "You've made quite the case," Antonio said, his tone measured. "But this is only one hotel. Do you really believe you can scale this across the entire brand?" "I do," Adam replied without hesitation. Because this isn't just about business. It's about building something meaningful, something that lasts. Antonio studied him for a long moment before nodding. Then you have my support. Don't waste it. A new beginning. With the board's approval, Adam's vision began to take root across the Rivera Hotels chain. The changes were gradual but significant, each one reinforcing the values he had discovered during his time as Daniel Cortez. At the Valencia Pearl, the transformation was most evident. The staff, once wary of Adam's intentions, now rallied around him with genuine enthusiasm. And Sofia, whose forgiveness he had worked tirelessly to earn, had become not just an ally, but a partner in shaping the hotel's future. One evening, as they stood on the rooftop terrace overlooking the city, Sofia turned to Adam, her expression soft. "You've come a long way," she said. "And so has this hotel." "I couldn't have done it without you," he replied. "Your belief in this place, and in me, means more than you know." She smiled, a genuine warmth in her eyes. "Then don't let me down." As the lights of Valencia stretched out before them, Adam felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The journey that had begun as a quest for understanding had transformed into something far greater. He had found not only a renewed purpose, but also a deeper connection to the people who made that purpose possible. The Valencia Pearl was no longer just a hotel. It was a symbol of what could be achieved when one chose to lead with authenticity, humility, and heart. And for Adam Rivera, it was only the beginning. Legacy and love. The morning sun painted Valencia in warm hues as the Valencia Pearl thrived under the reinvigorated vision of its owner, Adam Rivera. Months had passed since his revelation to the staff, and the transformation of the hotel was not just physical but deeply cultural. The hotel now felt like a living, breathing entity, not a cold, impersonal luxury landmark, but a space where the city's pulse could be felt. Adam's days were long, filled with meetings, events, and personal interactions with both staff and guests. Despite the grueling schedule, he felt more energized than ever. The changes he'd implemented weren't just improving the guest experience. They were creating a sense of purpose among the staff. What had once been merely a workplace for many now felt like a community, a family. But even as the hotel flourished, Adam knew there was more to be done. The Valencia Pearl's success had proven his approach could work, but replicating it across the Rivera Hotel's brand was an entirely different challenge. And on a personal level, his evolving relationship with Sofia Morales was a journey of its own, one he was learning to navigate with the same care he applied to his work. Expanding the vision. Adam's ambitions for Rivera Hotels had grown beyond mere profit. Inspired by the Valencia Pearl's success, he envisioned a future where every hotel in the chain reflected the unique culture of its location. Instead of standardized luxury, each property would become a cultural hub, rooted in the community it served. To achieve this, Adam assembled a small team of like-minded individuals from within the company, including Sofia. Her passion for the Valencia Pearl's transformation and her natural leadership made her an invaluable ally. During one of their strategy sessions, held in a sunlit conference room overlooking the Mediterranean, Sofia looked up from her notes and said, "This isn't going to be easy. Not everyone will share your vision, especially at the corporate level." Adam nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I know, but if we've learned anything from the Pearl, it's that people respond to authenticity. If we can show the board and the guests that this approach works, we'll set a new standard for the industry." Sofia smiled, a hint of admiration in her eyes. "You've changed, Adam. A year ago, I don't think you would have even considered something like this." He met her gaze, his voice soft. "I owe a lot of that to you, Sofia. You've helped me see what really matters." Her cheeks flushed faintly, and she quickly returned her focus to the presentation. But the moment wasn't lost on either of them. The challenge of change. The rollout of Adam's new vision was met with mixed reactions within the Rivera Hotels organization. While many employees were excited about the prospect of more meaningful engagement with guests and local communities, others, particularly at the corporate level, were resistant. The idea of decentralizing operations and tailoring each property to its locale was seen as a logistical and financial risk. One of Adam's most vocal critics was Victor Alvarez, the CFO of Rivera Hotels. During a heated board meeting, Victor leaned back in his chair, his skepticism evident. "Adam, this sounds great in theory, but let's be realistic. Customizing each hotel means higher costs, more variables, and less predictability. Investors want stability, not idealism." Adam remained calm, though he could feel the weight of the room's doubt pressing on him. "Victor, I understand your concerns, but predictability isn't the same as value. Guests are willing to pay a premium for experiences that feel authentic and unique. If we focus on building long-term loyalty instead of short-term profits, we'll create something far more sustainable." The room fell silent as the board members exchanged glances. Adam could sense the tension, but he stood firm. He had learned during his time as Daniel Cortez that leading with conviction often meant challenging the status quo, a personal turning point. As Adam fought to expand his vision, his relationship with Sophia deepened in ways he hadn't anticipated. Their professional collaboration had always been strong, but the trust and understanding they had built over time began to blur the lines between work and something more. One evening, after a particularly successful charity gala at the Valencia Pearl, Adam and Sophia found themselves alone in the quiet of the hotel's rooftop terrace. The city lights stretched out before them, and the soft murmur of waves filled the air. "You've done something incredible here," Sophia said, her voice filled with quiet admiration. "This hotel feels alive, like it's a part of the city, not just a place to stay." Adam smiled, his gaze fixed on her. "I couldn't have done it without you. You've been my anchor through all of this." She turned to him, her expression soft but serious. "You give me too much credit. You're the one who's made the hard choices. But you're the one who's helped me see the right ones," he replied, his voice low. For a moment, they stood in silence, the air between them charged with unspoken emotion. Then, as if drawn together by an invisible force, their hands brushed, and Adam took a step closer. "Sophia," he began, his voice almost a whisper, "I don't know where this journey is taking me, but I do know that it's better with you by my side." Her eyes searched his, and after what felt like an eternity, she smiled. A test of commitment. The weeks that followed tested Adam's resolve in ways he hadn't expected. As the rollout of his vision expanded, pushback from certain corners of the company grew louder. Investors demanded assurances, and the logistical challenges of tailoring each hotel to its locale became increasingly apparent. But Adam refused to waver. He spent hours poring over financial reports, meeting with local leaders, and rallying support from staff across the chain. Sophia remained his steadfast partner, her creativity and determination balancing his strategic focus. One of the pivotal moments came during the launch of a new program at the Rivera property in Barcelona. The hotel had partnered with local artisans to create an immersive guest experience, complete with workshops, performances, and culinary events. The launch drew widespread acclaim, and even Victor Alvarez was forced to admit its success. "This is what we're building," Adam told the staff during the closing celebration. "Not just hotels, but places where people connect, where they experience the heart of a city." The legacy reimagined. As the year drew to a close, Adam reflected on how far he and the Rivera Hotels brand had come. The Valencia Pearl was thriving, not just as a business, but as a cultural cornerstone of the city. Other properties in the chain were beginning to embrace the same philosophy, and the company's reputation was transforming. But more than the professional achievements, it was the personal growth that defined this chapter of Adam's life. His relationship with Sophia had blossomed into a partnership built on trust, mutual respect, and shared dreams. Together, they envisioned a future where their work would continue to inspire others, leaving a legacy that transcended luxury and embraced humanity. One evening, As they stood together in the bustling courtyard of the Valencia Pearl, surrounded by staff and guests alike, Sophia turned to Adam and said, "You've done it. You've changed the way people see this place. And yourself." Adam smiled, his gaze filled with gratitude. "We've done it, and we're just getting started." In that moment, surrounded by the warmth of the community they had built, Adam felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The journey that had begun with doubt and deception had led to a life of purpose, connection, and love. And as the stars sparkled above Valencia, he knew that this was only the beginning of a legacy that would endure for generations. Enduring horizons, the Valencia Pearl stood as a testament to transformation. A hotel once known solely for its opulence had become a living embodiment of culture, community, and connection. Adam Rivera, the man who had reimagined its purpose, walked through the grand lobby one morning, greeted warmly by staff and guests alike. It had been over a year since he first stepped into the hotel under the guise of Daniel Cortez, and the journey that had unfolded since felt like a lifetime. But Adam knew his work wasn't done. His vision for Rivera Hotels was only beginning to take root, and the challenges of scaling his philosophy across an empire still loomed. Balancing his professional ambitions with his personal growth and his deepening relationship with Sofia Morales was a delicate act, but one he embraced with newfound clarity. A new era for Rivera Hotels. The success of the Valencia Pearl's transformation had sparked curiosity and cautious optimism across the Rivera Hotels brand. Properties in Barcelona, Seville, and Lisbon began adopting Adam's model, weaving the unique flavors of their local cultures into the guest experience. Adam led by example, personally visiting each property to meet with staff and local partners. In Seville, he collaborated with flamenco artists to create a vibrant performance series. In Lisbon, he worked with historians to design guided tours of the city's storied neighborhoods. These initiatives weren't just profitable. They resonated deeply with both guests and employees, who felt a renewed sense of pride in their work. However, not everyone in the organization shared Adam's enthusiasm. At corporate headquarters, CFO Victor Alvarez continued to voice his concerns during board meetings. "Adam," he said during one particularly tense discussion, "your approach is innovative. I'll give you that. But it's expensive and time-intensive. Are we willing to risk the stability of the brand for this?" Adam's reply was calm but resolute. "Victor, stability without purpose is stagnation. The world is changing, and so are the expectations of our guests. If we don't adapt, we'll lose not just market share, but the essence of what makes us unique." His words carried weight, but he knew the path ahead would be fraught with resistance. To gain the full support of the board, he needed a flagship success, a project so undeniable that even the skeptics would be silenced. And he knew exactly where to find it. The crown jewel. The Rivera family's oldest property, La Estrella, was located in Granada, a city steeped in history and romance. The hotel had been one of Lionel Rivera's earliest ventures, but over time, it had fallen into disrepair. Despite its prime location near the Alhambra, La Estrella was underperforming, overshadowed by newer, flashier competitors. Adam saw La Estrella not as a relic of the past, but as the perfect opportunity to showcase the power of his vision. He proposed a complete renovation, not to modernize it in the traditional sense, but to restore its original charm while integrating the rich culture of Granada into every aspect of the guest experience. The project was ambitious, requiring significant investment and delicate negotiations with local artisans and historians. Sophia, as always, was at his side, helping him navigate the complexities of the endeavor. Together, they envisioned a hotel that would transport guests back in time, offering an authentic taste of Granada's Moorish heritage. One of the most challenging aspects of the renovation was working with the local government to preserve the building's historic integrity. Adam spent weeks in meetings with city officials, ensuring that every detail, from the tile work to the gardens, honored the spirit of the city. His persistence paid off, earning him the trust and support of the community. As the renovation progressed, Adam and Sophia poured their energy into every detail. They sourced handmade tiles from local craftsmen, commissioned traditional Andalusian musicians to perform in the courtyard, and partnered with local chefs to create a menu that celebrated Granada's culinary traditions. Personal growth and forgiveness. Amid the whirlwind of work, Adam found himself reflecting on the changes in his personal life. His relationship with Sophia had grown into something deeply meaningful, though it hadn't always been easy. The trust they had rebuilt after his initial deception now served as the foundation of their partnership, both professionally and personally. One evening, as they sat on the terrace of La Estrella, overlooking the twinkling lights of Granada, Adam turned to Sophia. "I don't know if I've ever told you this, but meeting you changed everything for me. You didn't just challenge me, you inspired me to be better." Sophia smiled, her gaze soft. "And you showed me that even people with privilege and power can change, if they're willing to listen." Their bond had become unshakable, but Adam also knew there was another relationship in his life that needed mending, the one with his father, Antonio Rivera. Though they had reached a fragile truce after Adam's transformation of the Valencia Pearl, their interactions remained strained. It was during a quiet dinner with his family in Madrid that Adam finally broached the subject. "Father," he said, setting down his glass of wine, "I know we haven't always seen eye to eye, but I want you to know that everything I'm doing, it's not to defy you. It's to honor what you and grandfather built." Antonio studied him for a long moment before nodding. "You've taken risks I wouldn't have, but I can see now that they've paid off. You've proven me wrong, Adam, and I'm proud of what you've accomplished." The words, though understated, carried a weight that Adam hadn't realized he'd been waiting for. In that moment, he felt a sense of closure, a healing of old wounds that had shaped much of his life. La Estrella's grand reopening. The grand reopening of La Estrella was a triumph. Guests marveled at the hotel's seamless blend of historic charm and modern comfort. The courtyard buzzed with the melodies of a live Andalusian band, and the scent of saffron and spices wafted from the kitchen. The event drew journalists, influencers, and industry leaders from around the world, all eager to experience the rebirth of one of the Rivera family's most iconic properties. For Adam, it was the culmination of years of hard work and a validation of his vision. As he stood in the courtyard that evening, surrounded by the people who had made it all possible, Sophia approached him, her smile radiant. "You did it, Adam. La Estrella is everything you dreamed it could be." He shook his head. "We did it. I couldn't have done any of this without you." Sophia reached for his hand, their fingers intertwining. "So, what's next?" Adam glanced around, the joy of the moment filling his heart. "Whatever it is, I want us to do it together." A legacy redefined. In the years that followed, Adam's vision transformed Rivera Hotels into a global leader in cultural and community-driven hospitality. Each property became a reflection of its locale, offering guests an authentic and unforgettable experience. The skeptics on the board were silenced by the chain's skyrocketing reputation and profitability. The Valencia Pearl remained Adam's home base, a place where he and Sophia continued to innovate and inspire. Their partnership had become a cornerstone of the hotel's success, and their love story was woven into the fabric of the Rivera legacy. One evening, as they stood on the rooftop terrace of the Valencia Pearl, watching the city lights shimmer like stars, Adam turned to Sophia and said, "We've come a long way, haven't we?" She smiled, her eyes full of warmth. "We have, and we're just getting started." As they looked out over the city, Adam felt a profound sense of fulfillment. His journey, from a reluctant heir burdened by expectations to a leader driven by purpose, had redefined not only the Rivera name, but also his own sense of identity. The Valencia Pearl, La Estrella, and every property in the Rivera Hotels chain stood as symbols of what could be achieved when authenticity, connection, and love guided every decision. Adam's legacy was no longer just about luxury. It was about creating spaces where people could find meaning, joy, and belonging. And for Adam Rivera, that was the horizon he had always been searching for. Horizons beyond. It had been 5 years since Adam Rivera took the helm of Rivera Hotels, and in that time, his vision had transformed not only his family's empire, but the global hospitality industry. The success of La Estrella, the revival of the Valencia Pearl, and the expansion into new markets had proven that his philosophy of community-driven luxury was not only sustainable but deeply desired by modern travelers. Rivera Hotels had become synonymous with authenticity, culture, and above all, humanity. Yet, despite all the successes, Adam felt an undercurrent of restlessness. As his empire grew, so too did the complexities of leadership. The more successful the brand became, the harder it was to hold on to the essence of what made it so special, its deeply personal approach to hospitality. A global network. Rivera Hotels had expanded into cities across the globe. From the chic streets of Paris to the sun-kissed beaches of Bali, each hotel now reflected the unique spirit of its location. The team of local artists, chefs, historians, and musicians that Adam had cultivated in each city was integral to the brand's authenticity. Every hotel was a microcosm of the city's culture, alive with the stories of the people who had worked tirelessly to preserve its soul. However, as the brand's footprint expanded, so did the logistical challenges. Adam found himself constantly flying between properties, coordinating major events, and managing an increasing number of partnerships. His personal involvement, which had been essential in the early days, was now spread thin, and he knew the soul of Rivera Hotels would suffer if he didn't find a way to protect it. It was during one of these transcontinental flights that Adam had an epiphany. As the plane glided above the clouds, he realized that his next mission wasn't just to scale Rivera Hotels. It was to create a sustainable framework that would preserve the very essence of the brand, no matter how large it became. The answer lay in decentralization. To safeguard the heart of each property, Adam would have to build a network of local leaders who could embody the vision he had created. Leaders who would have the freedom to operate with the same authenticity that had made the brand successful. This idea would become his next great challenge, not simply to expand, but to teach the next generation of leaders how to build with integrity. The birth of the Soul Keepers Initiative. Adam began developing what would come to be known as the Soul Keepers Initiative, a program designed to cultivate local leaders who could oversee the values of Rivera Hotels on a micro level. These Soul Keepers would be deeply rooted in the communities where the hotels operated, working not just with staff, but with the wider local population to ensure that every hotel reflected its surroundings, both culturally and socially. The Soul Keepers would be empowered to make decisions that aligned with the hotel's philosophy without the need for constant oversight from the corporate headquarters. To launch the program, Adam handpicked a few of his most trusted staff members to undergo intensive leadership training. He invited them to a retreat in the hills of Granada, where the lush landscapes served as a metaphor for what he hoped to cultivate: growth, roots, and transformation. It was there that he shared his vision with the chosen candidates, employees who had shown an exceptional understanding of the values that underpinned Rivera Hotels. "We have built something beautiful," Adam said to the group one evening as they gathered around a crackling fire. "But it can't just be about me or Sophia, or even our original team. This is about all of you, the next generation of leaders who will carry the flame forward. Your job is to ensure that no matter how big we get, no matter how many cities we open, the soul of Rivera Hotels remains intact." The Soul Keepers would be tasked with maintaining the same intimacy with guests that had defined the early days of the brand. They would be responsible for curating local partnerships, creating unique guest experiences, and leading initiatives that supported both the hotel and the surrounding community. Challenges from within. While Adam was filled with optimism about the future of Rivera Hotels, not everyone in the corporate sphere shared his excitement. A few board members, including Victor Alvarez, had expressed doubts about his ambitious new direction. They worried that empowering local leaders could weaken the brand's cohesion or make it more difficult to manage. "Adam, this is a risky move," Victor said during a board meeting, his tone more forceful than usual. "Giving local leaders too much autonomy could jeopardize the very thing we've worked so hard to build. What if one of our soul keepers goes rogue? What if their decisions don't align with our overarching goals?" Adam listened intently, weighing Victor's concerns. While he understood the need for consistency, he was steadfast in his belief that true authenticity could only come from the ground up, not from top-down control. "I understand your concerns, Victor," Adam said, his voice calm but resolute. "But I believe that empowering our people is the only way to ensure the longevity of this brand. Rivera Hotels isn't just about profits. It's about creating spaces where people feel connected, both to the place and to each other. The Soul Keepers will be our bridge to the future." Victor, though reluctant, could see the passion behind Adam's words. Over time, Adam would prove that the Soul Keepers initiative was not just an idealistic venture, but a necessary evolution for the brand's growth. A personal shift. While Adam poured his energy into the Soul Keepers initiative, the strain of balancing his personal life and professional duties began to take its toll. His relationship with Sophia, once the anchor of his life, had become increasingly strained. She had been his closest ally, his partner in both work and life. But as their responsibilities grew, they found less and less time for each other. Their once unbreakable bond began to crack as Adam became more consumed by his vision for Rivera Hotels. The pressure of maintaining the brand's authenticity while overseeing its expansion left him exhausted, and Sophia, though supportive, struggled to balance her own role as the hotel's event coordinator with her desire for a more personal connection. One evening, as they sat in the garden of the Valencia Pearl, Sophia finally spoke the words that had been weighing on her heart. "Adam, I've been thinking a lot about us, about our future. You've built an incredible empire, but I don't know if I'm still part of it, or if I'm just a bystander." Adam felt a pang of guilt in his chest. He had always taken Sophia's presence for granted, assuming that she would always be by his side, just as she had been from the very beginning. But now he saw the depth of her sacrifice, the time she had given up, the dreams she had put on hold, and the loneliness she had quietly endured. "Sophia, he began, but she cut him off. "You're not a bad man, Adam, but you've changed. And I don't know if I've changed with you," she said, her voice tinged with sadness. For the first time in years, Adam was faced with the reality of his actions, the realization that in his pursuit of success, he had neglected the most important part of his life. He had always feared that his responsibilities would overwhelm his personal connections, but he had never truly faced that fear until now. "I don't want to lose you," Adam said softly, his voice barely above a whisper, "but I can't promise I'll always be around in the way you need me. The work, the travel, the responsibility. It's all become so much, and I'm sorry. I should have made more time for us." Sophia's eyes softened, but there was a sadness in them that Adam couldn't ignore. "I need more than apologies, Adam. I need to know that you're still with me, not just in your mind, but in your heart. You've been running this company, but what about running our life together?" Adam knew that she was right. He had been running from the one thing he couldn't control, the passage of time. The legacy he had built could be immense, but it would be meaningless without the people who mattered most. "I'll do better," he promised, his voice filled with the weight of his words. "But I can't do it alone. I need you with me, Sophia." Forging a new path. The days following that conversation were some of the hardest Adam had ever faced. He knew that to move forward, both personally and professionally, he would need to recalibrate his priorities. The Soul Keepers initiative would continue, and Rivera Hotels would expand, but it was time to slow down, to give more of himself to the people who had been by his side all along. In the weeks that followed, Adam began working with Sophia to create a new framework for their lives together. He took time off from his travels to be more present, not just for the business, but for their relationship. They attended events together, took long walks through the city, and rediscovered the joy they had once shared in their partnership. Slowly, the cracks began to heal, and their bond grew stronger than ever. They understood each other in ways they hadn't before, both driven by a passion for their work, but committed to ensuring that their personal connection didn't get lost along the way. Adam had learned a valuable lesson during these trying times, that legacy isn't just about buildings, profits, or even culture. It's about the people who walk through your life and the moments you share. As Riviera Hotels continued to grow, so too did Adam's understanding of what it meant to lead, not just with vision, but with heart. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in years, Adam felt prepared for whatever came next. Together with Sophia, he knew that the journey they were on wasn't just about business. It was about creating a life that would endure, a legacy built not just on success, but on love, authenticity, and connection.